All right, so we're in July 2026, and the world of AI is everywhere in the digital imaging space, as you probably know. And something like AI upscaling is extremely common. In fact, there's models that you can download and implement on your own out there, just basically open source, countless amounts of them doing all kinds of different things. So none of this is exactly new. However, I've been trying out something called simply Enlarger, and I have the information here. As you can see, it's a version 1.0.1, very brand new, from a company called Voice House. I've been talking with them for the last week or two, and I want to try this out. Now, effectively what this is a beautiful interface that's channeling some kind of model or models, depending on what you're trying to actually do. Now, before we go into any of the UI here, which is super simple and super lightweight, and I love it, I want to show you some samples. So let's go over to Photoshop. Here are some samples that I did do with Enlarger and the results of them. Let's walk you through them just a little bit. Now, this first one started at 500 pixel crop, okay? This one started at 250 pixel crop, and this one's at 125 pixel crop. So you can see, obviously, they're one-to-one dimensions, and this is just kind of giving you best and worst case scenarios. Now, a couple of caveats. One, I never need enlarging, really. I've had some files that I lost years ago on a drive that I only have low-res proofs of, and I've enlarged those before in various different ways, and I thought that's kind of fun. But a couple of things that happened every time, at least with Photoshop, because they have the generative upscale, right? And that word is the key thing, generative. Does it do okay? Sure, it does all right, but the generative element is what bothers me, because it'll invent things, and that usually ends up looking, to me, what I call like a 90s airbrush painting. You know, the hair is just big, thick lines, and everything is smoother, and it's invented some things. And I guess that's impressive technically, but it's not real useful to me. So, you know, I pushed the boundaries here a little bit. This situation where this headshot is 125 pixels is about as bad as it can get. And the result is what you would expect. We'll go over that in a minute. So here's how I've set up the comparisons. Okay, this is originally started at 500 pixels. Okay, we'll go to that one. And what I have right now, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so you guys can see. As you can see here, the layer is called 200% nearest neighbor, that's NN, Photoshop resize hard pixels. Now look, what does that mean? All that means is, for those who may not know, when you go to resize an image in Photoshop, whether you're increasing the size or reducing the size, okay, one of the options you can pick amongst the many resampling options is nearest neighbor. And that's basically like, just make the pixels bigger, right? That's literally no reprocessing, no algorithms, no extrapolation, just make the pixels bigger or smaller, right? So if you shrink something with this, it'll look like you shrunk a selection in Deluxe Paint 2 in 1988 on an Apple II GS. Sorry about that reference if you don't get it, but no matter. So that's what I did here. I increased it to 2000 pixels from 500 using nearest neighbor. I did that to all of these, so you can kind of see what 0 would look like directly compared to what Enlarger did. So this is a semi best case scenario. You have half the resolution you want, or excuse me, a quarter of the resolution you want, which is really a quarter of the width. But anyway, we're not going to get into how all that grows, you know. Anyway, moving on. So what I'm saying is that this is actually what started at 500, ended up 2000, is 4 times the pixels. Let's see what happens. So here's the original effectively with the pixels, and then boop, this is what Enlarger did. Now, there's settings in Enlarger, which we're going to talk about in a second, okay? But as you can see, not bad. I put it a little strong on this one, but not bad. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, even though this is a 4K video. I want you guys to really see. Here we go. Original at 250 pixels, excuse me, 500 pixels. I misspoke, at 500 pixels, and then increased 4 times over to 2000, as you can see. Now, does that look real? No, it doesn't look real per se. But in a pinch, if you need something to be 4 times as wide, it goes from pixels to not. And honestly, that is a pretty good result. Some of the things that impress me, despite the AI look, is these perimeters, these hardline perimeters, okay? So it went from the original pixels. It kind of capitalized on the fact that it kind of recognizes a curve there. The teeth got weird, but I mean, what are you going to do? It's kind of abstract there anyway. The AI is doing what it can. I noticed that over here on the ear, that some red got enhanced. That's because there was already red in the ear. It's not too bad actually on this one. The lower res ones is actually quite worse. Speaking of, let's go to those real quick. That's what it did on 500 pixels. Let's see what it does on 250 pixels. So as you can see, this was a lot more pixelated. Let's see what Enlarger did. Boom. little bit softer. Obviously, it doesn't have a lot of details to work with. It applied some noise. And there you go. Now, this is a result that I thought was passable, at least, with the different settings. Again, we're going to talk about the settings, but for now, went from here to here. As you can see, it is making some decisions. But what it does, which I really like, is that it doesn't invent anything. It tries to work with what's there for whatever that's worth. Now, a 250 pixel wide headshot is pretty small. So the fact that it can do anything at all, not bad. Some of these models out there are pretty good at this sort of thing. And if you're really dead, like for example, in this situation, if you have a 125 pixel wide image and that's all you have, you can then run any of these models and see what kind of, if you get lucky. But as you can see, this is about as good as it gets. There might be better modelers than this, but without generative, you're not going to get extra detail that does not exist. So as you can see, from 125 pixel wide, this is 500 pixels wide. Still pixelated in general, but the 4x increaser is about the maximum you can do. People will say, hey, run the increaser again after you run it. Well, when you start at 125, it's just not great. Okay, so what did I do with Enlarger during my testing? Well, let's go back to it real quick and take a look. All right, so let's go ahead and add an image. So let's go ahead and put the 500 pixel one in there. I noticed when you first put it in there, you have to click it and then you can kind of see what's going on. Hold down the space bar, you can move it around. You have to click the checkbox because you can set up a queue. Multiple images can be set up in a queue if you want. You can check them all and then say go with the queue setup. Now in this place, I'm going to put 4 times the scale. AI strength, this is interesting. We're going to do some demos of what the AI strength might look like, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put it on 4 for now. The sharpness, I'm going to leave it at 2. Grain, I'm going to put it on subtle and 50%, which seems to be working okay for me. JPEG artifact reduction, not as big a deal, I've noticed, unless you have a ton of JPEG compression on something. Illustration mode's a whole different animal. As you can see, if you click here, it'll tell you. It's for like non-photographic content. It works pretty well. I might talk about that in another video. And then of course you can choose your output. Do you want JPEG and what resolution, what compression do you want? And then lossless, which ends up being PNG, by the way. Okay, you can choose your output path, which I've done here. I just put it on Dropbox. I can kind of keep them organized. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and hit enlarge. Now, when you do this, it takes a minute, and the larger the image starts, the longer it takes, right? Because it has more pixels to kind of crunch on. But for the moment, I've noticed it's okay. When I did an image that was 2,000 by 2,000 pixels wide, and I wanted it to go up to 4,000, it took about 3 minutes. You know, that's a lot. That's asking quite a bit of it. And it did pretty darn good, I thought. Not that I'd ever need to do that in real life. I'm going to talk about some real life uses potentially with some people I've talked about in this sort of realm. But let's go ahead and take a look at this and see how long it lasts. Now, it's probably going to take a minute, so I'm going to fast forward and I'll let you guys know, pretty much how long it took. It might actually take less than a minute, come to think of it. I'm trying to remember all the tests I've done this morning. Anyway, here we go. We're going to hit, yeah, okay, let's go. Oh, got to save over the original because I've been testing this morning. Here we go. All right, that took 21 seconds. And as you can see, going from 500 to 2000, there's some issues, of course. By default, I have it set up to A and B preview. In other words, if I click and hold, it'll show the original kind of zoomed in and then let go and you can see what it's thinking about. Now, if you hit this little I button up here, has a little letter I, even before you send it to process, you can click it and you can see kind of your before and after, just kind of give you a ballpark of what's going on here. It went from 500 by 500 to 2000 by 2000, and it did process, in fact, in 22 seconds. And that'll sit there for you to kind of think about that any way you like. As you can see, that's not a terrible result, but we can also experiment. What happens if we put the AI strength to 1 and then try that again? Let's give it another 22 seconds and let's see what happens at 1. Here we go. All right, so let's look at that result. Click and hold. Very, very similar. Obviously, the AI is making some decisions. Don't get me wrong. I can put the magnifying glass tool instead, and you can kind of see some differences. Okay. I'll mention again that AI upscalers are one of the most common models that you can sort of download and implement if that's something that you're into and you can do, right? Whether you implement it into a UI or some kind of script system or something, that's up to you. But they're everywhere, the open source ones. What's superior and what's not is going to be, at this point, very subjective. At the moment, I'm not sure what all models this Enlarger is using, but I love how lightweight it is. It'll open up. In 2 seconds, I can add a file and then I can start sort of rendering. Again, I don't need to use this a lot, but I have heard from many people, especially in the commercial retouching space, like my friend Dennis Dunbar, who works with many sort of media companies and whatnot for big promotions, Hollywood and television and things like that. And sometimes images are like, hey, this is the best we got. can you work with this? And sometimes it's, hey, this is an archival shot from 2002. This is all we got. Can you possibly work with that? And in some cases, yes, an upscaler does work really well, and it gets the job done for the commercial gig. Other people doing restoration, they might have a low-res scan of an actual print, and the actual print is long since gone. They don't have a quality scan, and they need to do some kind of restoration kind of job. And this is where upscaling and a few other options is where upscaling can actually be beneficial. It doesn't benefit me. In a normal workflow pipeline where you're taking photos and then you're putting them into raw processing and then you're editing them in Photoshop and exporting them, you don't need to do this. There's just no need for it. But nonetheless, let's try like a 3 AI, run another 22 seconds. And this time I'm going to take the grain and I'm going to put it on grain instead of subtle and leave it on 50. And I'm going to try to sharpen it a little bit just to see. And here we go. All right, let's take a look at that. Click, let go, click, let go. Let's go to our magnifying glass. You can see lots of decisions were made. The sharpening at 3 is probably a little strong. Okay, the idea that these AI things are ever going to get to the point where they can make your image look like the original. Like you can take an image that was 40 megapixel, reduce it to 1 megapixel, and then use an AI enlarger, and it's going to come back and look the same. That's just dreaming, because without prior information to what the original image looked like, it's going to use some kind of artificial intelligence, obviously, to come up with some data, right? In this case, it's using the data that's there, and even the water beads look pretty nice, I gotta say. Let's go here. Yeah, that's actually not bad at all things considered. So, if for some reason I needed like, oh God, this image needs to be resurrected, all we have is this. We need to resurrect it into something so we can use it. And you know what? It might be passable. I want to mention again, as much as I don't really care about upsampling images like this, honestly, sometimes, every now and then, like when I'm doing something where I need to use a previous graphic from something, not just a graphic design, but an image or an old image, or I want to crop something, but I want it to be a little sharper maybe for something. Every now and then I've used the generative, what they call upscale in Photoshop, and it's worked okay. It's slow, and I don't love it. And then the generative element causes a problem as well. And one final thing, even though I'm not trying to suggest or endorse anything illicit, I will say that Enlarger, just like any other open source based AI model, does not care what you feed it. Can't do it on YouTube, but you can put an art nude in here if you needed to, and it wouldn't be an issue. Whereas Photoshop, Adobe, and the other partners that they have safeguards in place for generative things that require, or rather that would have any type of result involving nudity or anything else that can consider a legal issue for them. So if nothing else, if you're doing art nudes, boudoir, swimwear, things of that nature, and you have an old image that you need to expand, Enlarger won't care, again, because it's presumably open source. So anyway, I want to show you that. I'm going to play with it more. I'm going to do more demos as well. I may even put up some downloads for you guys to check out if you guys really want. I'm not being paid for any of this. That's not how I work. I use Boris effects a lot. I use some other third-party things a lot, but I don't do, payola to pay me money and I'll tell people how great your product is. I just try stuff out if I think it sounds interesting, and if I do, I tell people about it. So yeah, check out Enlarger. I think you might dig it. Not super expensive. Company's based in Finland. Very, very cool. And again, the lightweight aspect is what I really like. You open it up and you go. It's not processing anything on the cloud. It's not doing anything generative. It's just using your processor. So if you have a smoking ass brand new machine, it's going to do this even faster than I'm showing you today. So any questions at all, leave me a comment below and I will try to get it to the developer and see if we can get it answered.